Coming up next on this special edition of Arizona Horizon, astronomers from the University of Arizona discover a growing baby planet outside our solar system. Also tonight, we'll hear about efforts to conserve water through the use of algae. And fossils discovered by local researchers suggest new ideas about human evolution. Those stories and more next on this special edition of Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to the special Science and Nature edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Astronomers recently detected a growing planet outside our solar system. The discovery is a first in that the baby planet was found in a cleared out area of a disk of dust and gas. Now, astronomers had always thought there might be a growing planet there, and they finally found one. We learned more from the University of Arizona astronomer Laird Close. Good to have you here. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thanks, Ted.
I just love this kind of stuff. Okay, so this is the first time a growing planet was found outside our solar system in this fashion, or the first time a planet was found, period?
All right, so to be clear, we have found, I don't know, about 6,000 planets outside of our solar system. So, but what's special about this is we almost know nothing about how planets form. And so we know that there are baby planets out there. We know that there are planets that are growing because after all, they get big like Jupiter. But we've never really seen that process of how a Jupiter-like planet is formed, like a big gas giant. So what's so excited about this discovery is that we've actually been able to discover a planet, take a picture of it, no less, actually growing. And we can see material falling onto the planet. And when that material, it's gases like hydrogen and helium, it falls onto the planet. And like, as everybody probably at home knows, when something falls through the atmosphere and lands on a planet, it gets hot. And so we can actually see this heat that's being generated by this process of like literally waterfalls of gas from outer space falling onto the surface of this baby planet, and it starts to grow. Maybe people can see this at home.
What are we looking at here?
Right. So this is this amazing system, and I've been looking for this for 15 years and never found anything quite like this. No one's ever seen anything quite like this. So it's very exciting. So you see a star in the center, right?
Yes.
That kind of looks like a star, and then you see a ring around it. It looks a little bit like Saturn's ring, but here you can see this white ring that's around a star. So right away, that's an interesting looking young star. It's got a big ring of dust and gas. And then you see this purple dot kind of to the bottom there. That's the planet. That's Wisbit 2b. That's the name of the planet. And that's a very special planet because you can see it's kind of a purpley color.
Yes.
And that's because it's glowing from that heat of material falling onto its surface. And that's a very unusual thing to see. And even more unusual, again, it just gets better and better. There's sort of a bunch of rings, and it's sitting right in sort of a dark gap between, there's a fainter ring, but it's down there to the bottom. And then there's that very bright ring.
Yes.
Right in between the rings is the planet. And that planet is working really hard to keep that ring dark and cleared of dust and gas.
I saw that in the story about this. I saw where it's kind of compared to clearing snow out. Something is being cleared out to allow this little baby planet to become a big planet.
That's right. I mean, the planet itself is pretty effective at clearing that area. So it's scattering out the dust. It's getting rid of any other planetesimals. It's accreting the gas. We thought that this is how these sort of things would work, but we've never been actually able to find a planet in one of these dark rings. And I suspect we're going to find more. It's tricky stuff. You need a really fancy camera to be able to take a picture like this.
I want to ask on how it was filmed, but I think we have another graphic here, and I want to take a look at this and find out what holy smokes, what are we looking at here?
Okay, well, now this is an artist's illustration. Okay, the other image was a legit photograph.
The real deal, yeah.
But this is an artist's illustration of what might be going on that planet. And what you're kind of seeing here is you're seeing this gas and dust. It's falling on to the planet itself. Astronomers like to call it accreting. So it's accreting hydrogen and helium, and it gets really hot. And so it sort of you see it's white hot, and it's emitting a bunch of different colors of light. One of them is a very special color called H alpha, and that's where we were able to find it. And because we can see this bright light coming from the planet at this very special wavelength, we know that it's from material falling onto the planet itself.
And it looks like it's within that ring. It's centered in there, but I'm also seeing a ring on the outer edges there.
Yeah, so this is there's a lot going on here. So this planet, it's so young that it has its own little ring, which you couldn't see in my photograph.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, all of that, this whole image that we're seeing here would all be inside 1 pixel of my photograph.
Wow.
So it's all, this is an artist's illustration of what would happen if you looked at it with a really big telescope, much bigger than we have. But it tells you sort of the concept, the astrophysics of what's probably going on. And we have real evidence that this planet really is accreting this material onto it. It's growing. It's a baby planet, and it's growing.
And this suggests to us, to you, that this is maybe how our solar system developed.
That is why I'm so interested in these things, because of course we don't know how our solar system formed. This solar system is 5,000 times younger than our solar system, but it might look a lot like what our solar system looked like when our solar system was just 5 million years old. Our solar system's about 4.55 billion years old. So if you go back 1,000 times in time, our solar system might have looked a bit like this, and Jupiter might have looked a lot like Wispit 2b.
But we're kind of running out of time, so we can't get too deep on how it was found. But my question is, not so much how it was found, but when you found this, does that mean now you can find others?
Yes, it's very exciting. So we're like, oh, yes, it's all working. It's a camera that was completely developed here in Arizona, and at the University of Arizona, and it's an amazing camera. It's about the size of a small car. It's very fancy. I just want to, it's sort of a little silly, but it has the ability to see the difference between 2 dimes that I'm holding up here if I was looking at it from Tucson. Okay, you know how far away Tucson is?
Yes, my goodness.
120 miles away, it can actually determine whether I'm holding up 2 dimes or 1 dime. And that's the power. It's a 20 milliarc second imaging camera. So it's the sharpest imaging camera that we have.
Well, Laird Close, U of A astronomer, that's a little freaking me out there a little bit with that thing. But great information, very exciting. This is really good stuff. Thanks so much for sharing this. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be on.
Arizona PBS would like to recognize all of our dedicated Legacy Society members. These are individuals who have generously included Arizona PBS in their estate planning. We are so grateful these loyal viewers chose to make the future of Arizona PBS a part of their lasting legacy. Thank you. To learn how you can join the Legacy Society, please call Robin Duda at 602-496-3614.
I really do enjoy volunteering. I like to think that I have made a difference. That's enough. I don't need to be patted on the back. I've included my PBS station in my future plans. It's not a big gift, but something that will help them.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
Every little bit helps. If we can do a whole lot of little bits, then we've done a great service.
When you support Arizona PBS, you plant a seed. Seeds that provide educational outreach in our community. Seeds that put our digital resources to work. Seeds that foster the trusted news coverage you expect from PBS. And seeds that continue the amazing PBS programs you love. But our garden can't keep growing without your support. Visit our website to see all the ways you can help our garden grow. Plant a seed with Arizona PBS today.
A Phoenix-based soil health company has teamed up with ASU to show how Arizona farmers can conserve water through algae. We learned more from Kathleen Merrigan. She's the executive director at ASU's Sweetie Center for Sustainable Food Systems. Good to have you here. We used to do a lot of algae stories, it seems like 10, 15 years ago, and then it kind of eased off a little bit. Is algae still a thing?
It's still a thing, a great thing, actually.
Really?
Great
Okay.
to be here. Let's talk.
Let's talk. All right, let's talk about improving soils with algae.
Yeah. So what this company does, that's Phoenix Space, it's called Myland, one word. They extract live native microalgae from a farmer's field, and then they take a close look at it and they figure out what the best strains are. They boost it in a proprietary way, but sort of fermentation, and then they pump it back through the irrigation system that the farmer already has in place to enhance soil quality.
How does it enhance soil quality?
So algae is a biostimulant. There are a lot of biostimulants out there, and farmers are understandably wary because they're all promoted. You know, this is the greatest thing since the beginning of time. And so I actually came across this company when I was working for a venture capital firm based in Europe. And I thought it was very exciting, but the partners at the firm were somewhat skeptical because there was not enough third-party data to support the company's claims. So that was the genesis of this ASU partnership with Myland.
Okay, so we're talking better water efficiency, we're talking better water conservation, we're talking the whole 9 yards here.
Well, microalgae, live microalgae, as Myland puts it into a farmer's system, can do a lot of things, including increasing water holding capacity. And in our very thirsty state, that's very important. But also it will enhance the soil quality generally. But what ASU's project is all about is using state-of-the-art technology to measure the impact on the farmer's water use.
So, and by doing so, you're measuring the impact on the crops themselves, how much they hold. You can do that, how much they additionally hold water now with algae?
What's being held in the soil.
Okay.
So what we do is we go to a farm, and we have several farm sites throughout the state where farmers agree to let us do an experiment there. So we have a control plot and the plot where we're using the Myland solution, and we're collecting real data, a lot of data over time throughout the crops, and a lot of different crops too.
So how is it installed? I mean, do you install it like fertilizer? Do you put it underneath? Is it pumped through? How does it work?
It's great because for the farmer, it's easy peasy. You do have a Myland tank operation that's set up on your farm, but it blends right in with your existing irrigation system. So it's quite easy, actually.
Yeah, and it does make a difference. Again, how much of a difference? Let's say I'm using X amount of water right now. I get Myland, I get all this algae in there. How much am I going to save? X minus what?
Well, that's the question that ASU is working on. So my center, along with the ASU Center for Hydrologic Innovations, is doing measurements on the water with these things called eddy covariance towers, state-of-the-art equipment. And in another few months, we'll have the first reams of data. But Myland does have data on their website that makes claims, but before I speak from the ASU, I'm going to make sure it's all certified, stamped with approval and all of that.
Yeah, you bet. All right, is this the kind of thing that is viable to be mass produced? I mean, in other words, can we see the San Joaquin Valley and all of the Midwest with these towers and with this algae being pumped into the ground, or is this kind of a specialized boutique kind of a thing?
It's actually being used in several states now, and I have a bunch of my graduate students this summer. We've been looking at the U.S. Department of Agriculture's EQIP program, Environmental Quality Incentive Program, which helps farmers cost share innovations on their farm that are conservation focused, so saving water, improving soil quality. That potentially could qualify for EQIP. And if it does, then farmers might get as much as 50 to 90% cost share when they implement the technology. So that's a part of our project too.
Last question before you go, real quickly. The quality of the crop, is it as good as it is before? I guess more algae shouldn't make that much difference, should it?
More algae should make a better crop.
it should make a better crop. Better tasting, taller, stronger.
Well, taste is a little subjective, but certainly it will contribute hopefully to yields, but certainly in terms of the resilience in these harsh climates that we face in our climate-stressed world.
Yeah, well, it's very encouraging. Kathleen Merrigan, again, the Sweetie Center for Sustainable Food System. This sounds like a sustainable food system, and then some. Thanks for sharing. We appreciate the information.
Thanks for having me.
ASU scientists have uncovered a set of fossils in Ethiopia that speak to human evolution and perhaps a new species of ancient human ancestor. We spoke to ASU geologist Christopher Camposano about the discovery. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
All right, so ASU, this is Ethiopia, right? This is, you're at a site. What'd you find?
So ultimately, we only found 13 teeth, but in those 13 teeth, we have 3 different levels preserved at around 2.8, 2.7, and 2.6 million years ago. And what it shows is that at 2.6 and 2.8, we have members of our genus Homo, and unsuspectingly or surprisingly, at 2.7 million years old, you have something called Australopithecus, which is something more aligned with what you see at around 3 million years or so in this region.
Interesting. How do you know? You got these dates pretty close. I mean, pretty close. I mean, 2.6. But I mean, how do you know?
So a really cool thing about working in East Africa is it's a active rifting environment with lots of volcanoes, and they've been volcanoes there for millions of years. And when they erupt, the ash that they deposit includes a mineral called feldspar that we can use to date. So the argon-argon dating or potassium-argon dating, radiometric dating, we can date those ash horizons, and we have multiple of them in our sequence so that we can say, well, this fossil is between this date, and this fossil is between here, and so you can use them to set up a chronostratigraphic framework, if you will. So a sequence of dates that you can insert your fossils in between.
So basically you work around and can figure that out.
Yeah, so in fact, we knew most of the dates of the fossils before we even found them.
Yeah,
we knew the age of the sequence, and that's why we were surveying there, because it's sort of an important time period.
We just saw Lucy. Where does Lucy fit into all this?
So Lucy is found about maybe 50 miles away, 30 miles away from where we found these new specimens. And Lucy exists in the Afar, this region of Ethiopia, from about 3.8 to about 3.0 million years old.
Wow.
A million years away. And so there's this gap that we had from about 3 million to 2.5 million. And we started filling that in about 10 years ago with, again, this material we call early Homo, so our genus Homo. And this additional material shows that, potentially this Australopithecus lineage, it could be related to Lucy somehow. We don't know. It's still not enough to tell. There's only 9 teeth that we have of this. That there's another critter on the landscape. So it goes from this sort of big gap for 500,000 years to now 2 species on the same landscape.
Is that why you were surprised?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's a time period that's not well preserved, and hominin fossils, as we call them, are very rare on the landscape. So it takes a lot of time till you come across them. You find hundreds of other animals on fossilized animals, but hominins are extremely rare, and so it took us 10 years to find the first one, and so then finding this one and finding it being something different is kind of a cool surprise.
So Australopithecus existed maybe at the same time as the oldest human ancestor?
Yeah, exactly. And so there are bits of Australopithecus in the area. Again, there's this one called Australopithecus garhi from 2.5 million, but it doesn't seem to be exactly on our lineage. And so the sort of takeaway is that, this sort of simplified model of evolution where you assume that one species splits into maybe 1 or 2 other species. It's not so much a family tree as it is a family bush, if you will. So all of a sudden now you have, if you look at East Africa, you have 4 different early human taxa or early human species running around the landscape.
It doesn't sound very linear to me. Does that make it more difficult to figure things out?
Yeah, it does make it more difficult, especially when you only have a small sample size, like again, 9 teeth, but not enough to even really characterize it into a new species. It doesn't look like Lucy's species. It doesn't look like other things that we know at that time. So we didn't name it, but we didn't group it into something that exists already. And so it creates a challenge because you have little tiny pieces of a puzzle, but it makes it that much more exciting because you know that there's still more out there to find.
Could they have coexisted? I mean, is this the kind of thing, could it possibly have happened? Just you stay on over here, I'll stay over here, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's tough to say because, we have sort of the early Homo, Australopithecus, early Homo, so we know that they overlapped broadly in time and space.
Yeah.
It's tough to say whether they, waved to each other as they walked around during the day or not. But it's possible. It's you can't really say one way or the other.
So, but in any way, just looking at this and this discovery, what does it say about human evolution?
I think it tells us that there's still a lot more to find. And this is sort of the case with discovery-driven science in general, whether it's dealing with, dinosaurs or early humans, right? It's getting people into the field, boots on the ground. The more time you're looking for things, the more things you're going to find. It may take a long time. It might only be a handful of teeth, but every discovery sort of becomes important.
Well, you said more needs to be found. Can more be found at this particular site? Can more be found in this general area?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, are the sites being taken up, is I guess my question.
I mean, the sites are we've carved up the landscape pretty good amongst different research groups. But every year, right, you have rain and wind eroding the landscapes, and you go back out and you find new things every year. So the sediments are sort of renewing with fossils, and so like I said, we found one important fossil in 10 years, and it took us a while to find the other one. So it's just probably a matter of time.
Yeah, and I imagine a lot of questions you still want answered as well.
Exactly. Yeah, we definitely want more. We want to know what this thing was like. Right now, we know what its teeth looked like. We want to know, what was its skull like? How did it move around the landscape? What did it eat? Those sorts of things. So this is sort of a little teaser.
Chris Campusano, great stuff, ASU geologist. Thanks for sharing the story. It's good
problem.
stuff.
Thank you for having us.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of Arizona Horizon. You have a great evening.